Blog Talk Radio.
Bigfoots Pad Paranormal Investigations team is in charge of the field. Bigfoots Pad Paranormal Investigations team. Bigfoots Pad Paranormal Investigations team.
And welcome to another edition of Bigfoots Pad Paranormal Radio. And today's show, you have me, King Sass, also known as Jeremy. I'll let my co-hosts introduce themselves for today's show.
I'm Nick, also known as Mothman Warrior 1.0.
I'm Brent, also known as Archangel.
And today's show, we are going to be talking about the Orang Pendek, or the Dwarf Sasquatch of Sumatra. And Nick, I guess today's show is mostly going to be led by Nick. So, Nick, do you want to get started with a little bit of news articles for today?
Yeah, I can. Well, my first news article is pretty interesting. It's called The Lightning Strike. On February 11th, 2013, Pope Benedict made his announcement of resignation. He's the first pope to resign since Gregory XII in 1415. Health reasons are cited as the reason for the resignation. Shortly following the announcement, a bolt of lightning struck the basilica at St. Peter's in the Vatican. A 12th century monk named St. Malachi made some predictions as to what would happen at the apocalypse, and he gave some vague descriptions of the last two popes that would reign during the coming days of the apocalypse. The second to the last pope is called the Glory of the Olive. Apparently, the word olive has a tie to the name Benedict because the Benedictine monks of the Catholic Church are called the Olivetians. And this last pope had the name Benedict. And then the very last pope of all time to reign will be called Peter the Roman. And in the upcoming elections for a new pope, there is a guy named Peter it's an African name, Turkson. Peter Turkson of Ghana. Is this the end of, as we know it, or is it another Mayan zombie apocalypse in the making, guys?
I don't know. I was thinking, that's weird. Well, I did see something on Yahoo that said that they think there's some kind of, like, sexual scandal type thing.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt it.
Like, they said something about they think that there's people, like, priests having sex and going to strip clubs and things like that.
Oh, yeah, that's nothing new. If you study Middle Age, history during the medieval times, you'll find that a great deal of many priests, bishops, and popes were some of the most fun-loving group of individuals, if you know what I mean.
Oh, yeah.
My next news article it deals with ancient rock art. Rock art has been discovered in the Scottish Highlands. The art consists of 28 flat rocks in the ground with various carvings. They are thought to be 4,000 to 5,000 years old. The markings are known as cat marks or cut markings, which comprise of the sun, solar chariots, and boats. There's also a nearby burial chamber and a circular ditch in the spot once used as a sun worship center. The sun was worshipped by these ancient Scottish people because they believed it rose from the underworld and set back into the underworld at the end of the day. That's pretty interesting.
Oh, yeah. What do you think of that, Brent?
I didn't hear the whole story. I was trying to bring up Blogtalk on my computer.
And Nick, unless you want to tell Brent real quick about what it was about again.
Oh, I just read a story about some ancient rock art that was discovered at a sun worship site in Scotland.
Oh, okay.
It's like 4,000 or 5,000 years old, something like that.
Oh, wow. That's pretty old.
Yeah. That's okay, Jeremy. You know, the rock art just points to a map in the universe where we're going to fly on Prometheus to go see where the alien saga all started.
I mean, we're going to answer all the questions of life, like how many bathrooms are on that ship?
Yep, exactly. And how what would do it faster, people washing it by hand or by a machine?
Oh yeah. Well, I had a quick news story I was going to say. Well, today I was on talk radio with Vince. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that. It's allthevegas.com is what I think it's called. But anyway, so I went on this radio show and did a 30-minute quick interview type thing earlier talking about my UFO case I'm working on, and apparently they wanted to give me and Nick at least, a 2-hour interview down at the radio station here in a couple weeks. So that
sounds fun.
So now we're the ones being interviewed for once.
Yeah.
So anyways, Nick, you continue with your stories. I thought that was worth mentioning.
Yeah, that's a good piece of team news right there. Yeah, here's another one that a lot of people might like. In Hopkinsville, Kentucky, the site of the famous Hopkinsville Sutton Farm incident, there is a large amount of black birds that have migrated to the area recently. The birds are so numerous that before dusk when they roost, they fly into the sky and they black out the sun as if there's a solar eclipse. That's a lot of birds. And
oh, yeah.
The big problem with the birds is their fecal matter, it's everywhere. It's all over the ground, people's houses, cars, etc. And these black birds are known to carry many contagious diseases which can be fatal to humans. So with all these fecal matter around, the chance of a disease or an epidemic sprouting up increases dramatically. And also the fecal matter from the birds deteriorate the quality of the soil. So plants start to die off, and then there's holes in the food chain. So there are environmental concerns with all these birds being there as well. And a climatologist basically said that due to an increased warmth in the winter, there has been a shift in their migratory patterns, and that's why we have all those black birds down in Hopkinsville. Apparently they had a very similar incident back in 1978. But I thought that was kind of interesting.
Well, I know the movie The Birds was based on something that happened in California, and Alfred Hitchcock thought it was interesting, based his movie off that. But, yeah, I was saying, is that what you were talking about, Nick? Yeah. Like that incident?
No. Hopkinsville itself had another one in 1978.
No, I know that. I was saying, like you said, there's one that happened in the past.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, the Alfred Hitchcock movie was based off of that event. Yeah, I was talking about that.
Yeah. I think Tim's going to be calling in here in a minute.
Apparently, in the past week, down in Texas, a man by the name of David Arcano, who lives near Port, can't recall it off the top of my mind, that he lives down in Texas, and he and his friend went to go visit a cemetery to go to a grave site where Mr. Arcano's cousin and uncle were buried. And when he was down at the cemetery, he looked across the creek. And across the creek, there were two large, hairy mammals, which were approximately 7 to 8 feet tall. One was standing with its arms wrapped around a tree, and then the other was hunched over, or at a squatting position, hunched over, throwing rocks into the creek. The gentleman then managed to take a picture of these two creatures, and this picture is up on the web. I pulled it off of coasttocoastam.com, and when he took the picture of these two creatures, they fled. He said that they had long, shaggy hair, but their faces were free from hair and were smooth like a man's. So,
that's weird.
In my opinion, I've seen the picture. In my opinion, this is some of the better Sasquatch evidence that I've seen in a while. So I just thought I'd point that out.
That's weird. Well, Brent, what do you think of that Bigfoot sighting?
Brent, man, you keep asking me these questions, and I'm trying to look up information over here. Not really paying attention.
Okay, do you want to get started with the main topic here? Or do you have anything else to say?
You have the notes, Nick, so yeah. I pulled up a little bit of stuff just now, but you have most of the information.
Okay, well, today, everybody, we're going to be talking about the Orang Pendek, or the Dwarf Sasquatch, out in Sumatra. This is a very interesting case and phenomena which we've talked about for quite some time. I think we've had 1 or 2 shows on this. I believe this is Tim's personal favorite case to study, at least when it comes to cryptids. So I think today's show is going to be pretty interesting. How about you, Jared?
Oh, yeah. I think the Orang Pendek is one of my favorite Sasquatch cases just because it's so weird. You don't really hear about very many small Sasquatch type creatures.
Yeah, well, the Orang Pendek, Indonesian for literally short person, is the most common name given to a cryptid or cryptozoological animal that reportedly inhabits remote mountainous forests on the island of Sumatra. The animal has allegedly been seen and documented for at least 100 years by forest tribes, local officials, Dutch colonists, and Western scientists and travelers. Consensus among witnesses is that the animal is a ground-dwelling bipedal primate that is covered in short fur and stands between 80 to 150 centimeters tall, or 30 to 60 inches tall. It's pretty small for a Sasquatch because typically when you hear stories of Sasquatch, images are evoked in your mind of a very tall bipedal animal like Australopithecus, or even to draw something from pop culture, the Messing with Sasquatch videos for Jack Link's beef jerky, or you get images of the abominable snowman, or now you get a very trying to think of a word, a very imposing image in your mind of what a Sasquatch is. But the Orang Pendek, on the other hand, is quite the opposite. It's only 30 to 60 inches tall, so that makes it at most 5 feet tall, which is quite short for any bipedal animal, never mind a Sasquatch.
Well, the thing I was wondering about the Orang Pendek is it must be something with the environment, because maybe it couldn't I don't know if I say it couldn't support a tall animal like the regular sized Bigfoot, but because I know there are Bengal tigers and different things in Sumatra I've seen on TV before.
Well, I do believe that the reason why the Orang Pendek is so small does have to do with the environment and the diet of the animal, because the number of food items for this animal might not be as numerous as other places in the world. So its body has to be able to rely on smaller amounts of food to get by. For example, if you go to the Arctic area and you find polar bears have to eat a lot of food to be able to survive those cold, harsh winter conditions. On the other hand, Sumatra is much warmer, and it's not as harsh as an environment to live in, so an animal does not need as much fuel for its body as a polar bear would. So,
I'll say, speaking of their diet, do you have notes on their diet? I think I found something on here.
Not that I could pick. Oh, wait, right here. Sightings by locals often take place in farmland on the edge of the forest, where Orang Pendek is allegedly seen walking through fields and raiding crops. It eats corn, potatoes, and fruit. Locals with experience in the forest claim that Orang Pendek seeks out ginger root, a plant locally known as pahora or lolo, young shoots, insects and rotting logs, and river crab. The durian fruit is also thought to be a favorite of the Orang Pendek.
So it seems like it just eats mostly fruit and river crabs.
Yes, it eats mostly fruits and very, very small game. Yeah, like river crabs and insects. So the animal, the Orang Pendek, is consuming very small amounts of food, so its body does not have the potential to grow into a bigger size. Again, I'll bring up another example from science. Years and years ago, in the medieval ages, when there was a great famine in Europe, the height of the average human being went down by a few inches because the people didn't have proper nutrition. When you compare that to the people of the United States, the people from the United States are much taller because we have a great deal more food and nutrition options available to us than the people in the Middle Ages did.
Yeah. Sorry, the chat room, they're asking me something right now.
Oh, well, I just thought I'd bring that up to answer the question as to why the Orang Pendek is so small. Maybe, and this is probably the most logical answer, is that the Orang Pendek just doesn't consume the right types of foods for it to grow very big, probably because it doesn't need to. I mean, if it can live off of river crabs and ginger root and corn and potatoes, why should it change its diet?
Mm-hmm. Well, Becky says that she thinks that she's heard, you heard that theory about where people and animals shrink and get taller over time, like in trends, I guess is what you would call it?
Yeah.
Well, something interesting. Well, I know that everybody knows we do shows on the Ebu Gogo before. Well, the Ebu Gogo and the Batut Tut, the two creatures we always do radio shows on, those are related to this and are almost pretty much the same thing, for the most part. I was going to say, well, Nick.
Yeah.
I'm reading a web page. It says that they have a divergent big toe. It says that means that the toe that's separated from the other toes as a thumb would on like your finger.
Okay.
I noticed from North America, they said the Bigfoot that are more ape-like have the divergent toe like that. The ones that are more human-like, they say, have the feet like us. That's kind of interesting to know because you figure, I don't know if that means it would be more evolved or if that means that maybe it's more like an animal than a person. I don't know that. What do you think of that, Brent?
Well, the way I see it is, it's more or less like an adaptive evolution, like out here in the United States. You know, we get the flat-footed and more or less looking more like human feet that you know they don't really have vines or you know really like crazy. I mean, I know we have rainforests out here like in Oregon, Washington, and all that, but you don't really. I guess with the evolution, they don't really need like a divergent big toe like that because I mean, what real use would that be for around here?
Oh yeah.
Compared to say like, you know, Sumatra, where it's mostly rainforest out there. So I mean, like, you would think that it would be kind of, I guess, easier for a creature with a divergent big toe in Sumatra to, I guess, get around.
Yeah. I mean, swinging from trees and stuff. Well, it does say that it's seen in the trees often.
Well, Jeremy, if you don't mind me interjecting, I do have a detailed description of what the average Orang Pendek looks like.
Or you could say, I wanted to get back to, I was going to say, before you get on that, because Brett was talking about needing to get around in different environments, so it needs that toe. I was saying, well, they do say that it's seen in trees often, which you don't really hear about that of the Bigfoot that we often hear about, but people usually aren't looking in trees for that Bigfoot, so who knows?
Yeah, well, we do know that from other primates and monkeys particularly, they do use that appendaged toe to use it like a hand. They pick things up with their feet, and like they'll pick up a stick with their foot and stick it in the hole and fish out termites from the ground.
Well, I know that there's a story of, like, they seen like a Orang Pendek like clapping its feet or something.
Yeah.
Like, something like that.
Yeah, very similar.
We heard something about, like, you and Tim found it or something like that, like about a year ago. I don't know if you remember the story or not.
Not off the top of my head, no, not right now.
But anyway, yeah, Nick, you said you had a description that you were going to tell our audience?
Yeah. Well, Debbie Martyr, a prominent Orang Pendek researcher who has worked in the area for over 15 years, has interviewed hundreds of witnesses and alleges to have seen the animal personally on several occasions. She gives the following description. It is usually no more than 85 or 90 centimeters in height, although occasionally as large as 1 meter 20 centimeters. The body is covered in a coat of dark gray or black fleckled with gray hair. But it is the sheer physical power of the Orang Pendek that most impresses the Kerinci villagers. They speak in awe of its broad shoulders, huge chest and upper abdomen, and powerful arms. The animal is so strong the villagers would whisper that it can uproot small trees and even break rattan vines. The legs in comparison are short and slim. The feet, neat and small, usually turned out at an angle of up to 45 degrees. The head slopes back to a distinct crest, similar to the gorilla, and there appears to be a bony ridge above the eyes. But the mouth is small and neat, the eyes are set wide apart, and the nose is distinctly hominid.
Yeah.
When frightened, the animal exposes its teeth, revealing oddly broad incisors and prominent long canine teeth. That's an alphabet soup to say right there, that description.
Well, so it sounds like it's kind of ape-like. I mean, we figure the Mayaka ape pictures of Florida, when that thing got scared of the flash of the camera, it exposed its teeth, showing its canine teeth, just like it says this does. And from what I've seen, because I told you, we've seen a Bigfoot back in, 2008, 2009 with Brent. It says that this one sounds similar to a gorilla. Well, what I've seen didn't really sound similar to a gorilla, or didn't seem like it. I got like a good side profile view of it. And then Brent's seen at the hind end jumping into the woods. Say, Brent, should we tell our story again real quick?
If you want, do you want to start with what you saw?
Yeah, because I think it's relevant for this show. Well, back in 2008 or 2009, we were in a remote area in kind of close to Lake Tahoe. Well, this area, just to let our listeners know, this area there's a street sign that says it's 60 miles from the nearest town. And that town is maybe 1,000 people. So you figure you got to go almost 2 hours on a dirt road to get to this location. Well, we were staying out at this location for a couple days. We were doing call blasting, which, in case you don't know what that is, that's where you play the sounds of a Bigfoot to try to draw it in. Well, we did some call blasting. We had camera traps set up, the whole shebang. We weren't really getting any sort of responses. Well, we thought we heard a response from very far away. I'd say around 5 to 7 o'clock at night. Well, the activity seemed to die down. So this specific area, there's like a dirt lot where you park your cars, and then there's like an old campsite. Well, we started hearing some kind of a whooping or like a whining type noise coming from a creek nearby. And I don't know if you're familiar, the listeners are familiar with Bigfoot calls and Bigfoot sounds, but it almost sounds like a whooping noise that you would associate with a Bigfoot. But it sounded more like a bird to me once it was going on in person. Well, anyways, this whooping noise or whatever is coming from this creek, and all of a sudden the whole forest just got dead silent out of nowhere. You could have heard like a pin drop. And all of a sudden we heard footsteps coming, and one pair of footsteps turned into 2 pair of footsteps, and then the 2 turned into 3, and there was at least 2 or 3 of this creature. Well, at this point it's about 9 or 10 at night, and we had our spotlights that we used to find when we do this sort of thing. We bring spotlights with us. Well, we thought we seen something moving around a certain area of this campsite. So we flipped around with our spotlights to where we thought we seen this thing moving. Well, there was nothing there. Wherever we shined our spotlight, something came out from the trees behind us or on our side. It came out from behind us or on our side and came out in that dirt lot I was telling you about. And I guess I seen it out of the corner of my eye, and I flipped around and I hit my spotlight on it. And whatever this creature was, it took off running like a bat out of hell. Like it got scared that we were looking at it. It thought it was stalking us. Anyway, so it ran across this dirt road lot area, whatever you want to call it, and it leapt into the tree line. What I seen, it was about 5 or 6 feet tall. More lengthy than muscular looking, and it didn't make any noise, but I did see that it had hair on its whole body except for its face, because I didn't get like a face-to-face look at it, but it wasn't farther than, what would you say, Brett, like 30 feet away or 20, 30 feet?
Yeah, that's probably where I would put it at, probably like 20 or 30 feet.
I'd say, yeah, Brent, you want to tell your side of the story?
All right. Well, as Jeremy was saying, he saw the creature, and we were hearing all these noises, and excuse me. Well, Jeremy was looking kind of down like this dirt, the dirt road, I guess. It was the dirt, and then there was some trees. But anyways, he was looking over there, and me and Tim were looking off in another direction, and then we were me, Tim, and Jeremy were all we were conversating, talking about what was happening. We were hearing these noises, and I turned around to talk to Jeremy, to say something to Jeremy, and he's just frozen, pointing his spotlight in one direction, and then I'm like, "Hey, Jeremy, what's going on? What do you see?" And then he just raises his spotlight, and then I look where the spotlight's pointing, and that's when I saw my side profile view of the Bigfoot going into the forest. And by that time, it was pretty much I couldn't see the head. I could only see the right arm and the left leg is what I saw.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
we were talking about descriptions of Orang Pendek, and I was saying that doesn't really resemble the Orang Pendek, though. That's what I was trying to get at with the story. What do you think, Brent?
Yeah, it's definitely different. Like, yeah, just from the from our experience, our first-hand experience, it just the Orang Pendek. It doesn't really sound like. I mean, they do sound similar with the cases, but with size difference, and they kind of have the same kind of, I guess, habit.
That was one of the weirdest things I've ever seen in my life. I'll never forget that, though.
Well, yeah, it was so weird that you guys didn't. Brent didn't even tell his part of the story for like a good almost a year later.
Yeah. I was kind of in shock about that.
Well, talking about sightings, I have the first European sighting of the Orang Pendek, if you want me to read that to the audience.
Oh, go ahead, Nick.
Okay, well, beginning in the early 20th century, Dutch settlers provided Westerners with their modern introduction to the Orang Pendek. Two accounts in particular are widely reported. A Mr. Van Heerwarden, who was a land surveyor, was surveying land in Sumatra in 1923, and he had an encounter with the Orang Pendek. He described it as follows: I discovered a dark and hairy creature on a branch. The sadapa was also hairy in the front of its body. The color there was a little lighter than on the back. The very dark hair on its head fell to just below the shoulder blades, or even almost to the waist. Had it been standing, its arms would have reached to a little above its knees. They were therefore long, but its legs seemed to me rather short. I did not see its feet, but I did see some toes which were shaped in a very normal manner. There was nothing repulsive or ugly about its face, nor was it at all ape-like.
That's always good, because you figure those stories are pretty reliable, because the one that said that to me is Lake Champlain, of all things. These European explorers, they're just stating what they saw. At this point, they didn't know that it was some kind of a rare animal, you know.
Yeah.
And then another gentleman said, I saw that he had short hair. They're talking about the creature cut short. I thought, and I suddenly realized that his neck was oddly leathery and extremely filthy. That chap's got a very dirty and wrinkled neck, quote, I said to myself. His body was as large as a medium-sized native's, and he had thick, square shoulders, not sloping at all. He seemed to be quite as tall as I saw that it was not a man. It was not an orangutan. I had seen one of these large apes a short time before. It was more like a monstrously large siamang, but a siamang has long hair, and there was no doubt that it had short hair.
That's pretty weird.
So there's two various accounts of encounters with the Orang Pendek.
But judging from those stories, you figure this has short hair. The one that's in North America usually has long hair.
Yeah.
But at the same sense, he said the body was only as large as a medium-sized native. That's pretty much what I seen. It was the same body type. It wasn't some big burly giant from, yeah.
Well, two things. First, the North American Sasquatch probably has longer hair because of the colder climates that the North American Sasquatch is found in.
Nick. Well, there's also a lot of communist countries over there that tell you how to dress and how to cut your hair, and they let you have freedom of expression over here.
Oh, yeah. No, not for very much longer, but that's another show. Then also, you talked about your sighting and how the Sasquatch that you saw was very small. If I recall, a few years ago, there was a Bigfoot photographed in Ohio, and it looked very similar to the description that you gave of the Sasquatch that you had seen. Do you remember that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, no, that was in the south.
Oh, okay. But that was probably close to something that you had seen?
Oh, yeah, the one that I seen, just for the listeners that are wondering, Tim bought a Sasquatch DVD about a southern Sasquatch, and I've never seen another artist rendition that looked like what I've seen. But on the specific documentary, there is a drawing that an artist made of a Sasquatch that someone's seen down south, and it looks so similar to what I've seen, it gave me nightmares for like a couple of weeks. And I think that's what Nick's referring to. I think, right?
Yeah. Well, I had to be interrupted by good old cool time with Tim.
Yeah. Well, Nick.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm looking at your notes right now. Can you go over the possible explanation section?
Yeah, let me locate that rather quickly.
Yeah, cool. There's three main. I'll start it. There's three possible explanations for Orang Pendek according to skeptics and researchers. So, Nick, you want to tell us those?
Yeah, sure. The three possible explanations of Orang Pendek's identity are prominent. That all sightings can be explained as the mistaken identification of local animals, or the witness of Orang Pendek are describing a previously undocumented species of primate, or a species of early hominid still lives in the Sumatran jungle. Those are the three ones I have in my notes.
Yeah, that's what I think too.
So, Jeremy, out of those three explanations to describe the existence of the Orang Pendek, what do you think is the most reasonable explanation, and why?
Well, using the order of elimination, you figure mistaken identity. These people live out there. They have real monkeys and gorillas and stuff out there, so I don't think they would mistake it with something that they live with all the time. It'd be like you mistaking a pigeon for a pterodactyl or something. It's not going to happen, you know.
Yeah.
Undocumented primate. That one sounds plausible, but because there are sections of Sumatra that haven't really been touched by man. I think it's probably surviving hominid. Because you figure Homo florensis, we haven't talked about that yet, have we, Nick, on the show?
No, not today.
Well, we'll get into that in a minute. They found some skeletal remains of something that resembles the Orang Pendek that used to live on the island when the bones weren't that old. So what do you think, Brent?
Is this kind of like the same thing with the Orang Pendek, but it was there beforehand? Is what you're saying?
Oh, well, they think it might even be the actual thing, you know what I mean? But they found like actual skeletal remains in a cave or whatever. I think so. They think because it lived right about the same time, maybe a little bit earlier before that, like maybe 1,000 years before, which is still very, very likely to live within the realm of man, alongside man.
Yeah, it sounds like it. It sounds like it could still be the same thing. It's just maybe it could have just evolved.
Yeah, exactly. And this time, they actually have evidence to prove it's real.
Well, Big Red says she's going to go on the next show. She's in the chat right now.
Okay.
But I mean, yeah, I definitely think it's like either, like you said, an undocumented type of ape, or definitely. But I think I lean more towards the hominid, like a surviving hominid, because the description is very, very like you would associate with a regular Bigfoot. So, but I just think maybe it survived the ages. And I know, did you guys go over the whole story and how the people supposedly killed it out, Jeff?
No, not yet.
Yeah.
You could tell it if you want.
Oh, well, because I know they say it used to actually be a somewhat common animal on the island of Sumatra until I believe it was either the late 1800s or early 1900s. Because the people, I guess a lot of the town people got just fed up with these animals raiding their crops and everything, so they actually took it upon themselves to form like a lynch mob and go after every single one of these creatures they could find, and I guess they virtually made them extinct, because I know they trapped supposedly a couple of them in a cave and tried to kill them out, but I just know that they supposedly made it nearly extinct, so it's kind of funny that the local people said it was fairly common to see these things up until, they basically killed it off. Then by the way, Jerry, I don't believe it, because what's the one in Flores that one's called? That's the Homo florensis, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because in the neighboring island on Flores, there's a creature that's reported to be almost the same thing, which, I believe is the same creature, all by different names.
Well, what do you call it? Sorry, Becky's telling me something that she plans to go to Flores soon, or she wants to go with us, is what she's saying on there.
Okay, that's cool. It doesn't matter to me. Tell Big Red to bring her hiking boots and plenty of Big Red gum.
I keep saying she's the Okie. Yeah, she's saying the government tried to erase our college history or something.
Typical. But Homo florensis they're practically explained to be like the same exact creature, and that's where they actually have the skeletal remains. And then on the neighboring island, Sumatra, it just so happens this creature spotted. So what do you think, Nick? It's the same creature, or same creature just like goes by a different name because it's a different island, or what's your idea?
Yeah, I think that it probably is a living hominid based upon the fossil evidence in the area. That's the most logical explanation if you just go by the facts alone. And the fact is that there is a skeleton found of a creature which is pretty much identical to the Orang Pendek that exists in the same environment. What probably happened is the population of the Orang Pendek found in the caves, they went extinct on that island, and then the remaining creatures then found a way to get to the other islands in the Indonesian archipelago. So, yes, I do believe it's a living hominid because, like I said, that fossil is probably the most telltale sign.
Well,
there's definitely
a couple
something.
other things I wanted to add in there. Well, maybe the Orang Pendek never died out in a sense. Maybe, like you said, the population dwindled, and since the island is mostly uninhabited, maybe the explorers are barely starting to get to the side of the island where it lives. Or maybe it's getting desperate for food because you said it raids crops all the time. And that's how that's how most of them do sight if they see it raiding their fields and things. Well, if it's in an archipelago of islands, Flores, and it's on Sumatra mainly, I was going to say, do you think that there might be more than those two islands that have these things living there?
I doubt it.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised at all. What do you think, Brent?
Yeah, I think so also. I mean, there's accounts of Bigfoot all over the world, so I wouldn't be that surprised to find out that there's more Orang Pendek on different islands than just in Indonesia.
Yeah, it's just called by different names because different people have different names for creatures. You know, even like you can go to like in Africa, you can go to one tribe, they'll call the same thing one thing. Go to another one, they'll call the same animal something else.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And then Brent, tell us the present.
Yep.
Nick.
Yeah.
Can you talk about? I'll do it. The Suku Anak Dalam, or Children of the Inner Forest, also known as the Orang Batin or Orang Rimba, are groups of nomadic people who have traditionally lived throughout the lowlands forests of Jambi and South Sumatra. According to the legends, Orang Pendek has been a part of their world and co-inhabitant of the forest for centuries. Benedict Allen, author of Hunting the Gugu, writes that these groups frequently leave offerings of tobacco to keep the Orang Pendek happy. And the Orang Rimba speak of a creature known as the Hantu Pendek, or the short ghost, whose depiction closely matches the Orang Pendek. However, Hantu Pendek is thought of as a ghost or a demon rather than an animal. According to the Orang Rimba, the Hantu Pendek travel in groups of 5 or 6. They live on wild yams and hunting animals with small axes. Accounts of the creature claim that ambushes unfortunate travelers in the forest. Along the Macacal River, on the western edge of the Bukit, why do they have to do this to me? Bukit Duabelas, people recount the legend of how their ancestors outsmarted these creatures on the hunting trips. So, say the Hantu Pendek exists, or the Hantu Pendek. So, if these are the same creature, or they would have similar traits, they would travel in groups of 5 or 6, and they would use tools like small axes, like they said.
Yeah, and I heard they also made like spears and stuff too, like like makeshift spears out of wood.
But what's weird though is the Homo florensis, they use small tools. So.
Well, exactly. It goes to prove they're very smart. and the same creature, most likely.
But if they're human-like and they hunt people, does that mean they'd be cannibals in a sense?
Kind of, sort of.
What do you think, Nick?
Well, it wouldn't necessarily make them cannibals, because cannibalism is a member of one species preying on a member of the same species. For instance, if a wolf eats another wolf, it's committing cannibalism. But if a wolf eats a dog, it's not. Even though both the species are closely related, there's enough of a genetic difference to where eating the wolf eating the dog wouldn't make the wolf sick. Like if a human eats another human, the person usually gets very sick from eating human flesh because we're genetically the same and our bodies cannot process human meat very well. And I would assume.
Well, I know that there's the famous serial killers. Ed Gein and Albert Fish from the early 1900s. It said that
Andre Chikatilo.
Yeah, they used to eat people all the time, and I guess they didn't get sick, or they just got used to it, maybe.
Yeah, that's interesting. I don't know.
Or they could just be so crazy that maybe they don't care. I don't know.
Yeah, I'd have to go back and read the medical literature about it to really give you a definitive answer.
I thought you were going to say you have to cannibalize a person to find out.
Yeah, I'll get back to you on that one. I'm going to try it out. I heard it tastes like chicken or ham. I don't know.
Well, we actually have a friend that's a serial killer historian, and probably try to get him on the show one of these days.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Of course, I'd have to figure out what he was talking about or what to talk about.
That was probably a paranormal thing to deal with serial killers, too.
People just join into the show halfway through. They'd think we were in...
Oh, well, I was gonna bring up a point earlier when you were talking about the something or another, the Hantu Pendek. It says that the people think of a Hantu Pendek as a demon or a ghost. In North American Bigfoot lore, there are people that think that the North American Bigfoot is a demon or ghost or even an extraterrestrial. I think that's an interesting similarity right there.
Yeah.
Well, something I forgot to mention earlier, Nick. I'm going to talk a little bit about the location. I think you might have done it earlier. The Kerinci-Seblet National Park is where they're mostly sighted, which is in the center of the big island of Sumatra. And they said it's 2 degrees south of the equator, which is close to this tropical environment. And it's seen in the Bukit Barisan, I think I said, mountain range. It has some of the most remote primary rainforests in the world, which means it's not destroyed by people. And it says that loggers see it a lot. Sorry about that. I'm just reading this article. So the Kerinci National Park, Tim just showed me a website he had saved on it. It's 13,000 square kilometers. It spans 4 provinces across the southern part of Sumatra: Western Sumatra, Jambi, Bengkulu, and South Sumatra. It consists of mostly mountainous terrain, and this is on the forest website. And it says it has one of the highest peaks in the whole entire area. This park contains Sumatra's most significant population of Sumatran rhinos, estimated to be between 250 to 500 of those survive there. It says there's elephants, tapirs, leopards, flying squirrels, sun bears, and it says there's a goat deer. It says there's rabbits, there's tons of golden cats. I don't know what those are. And there's black panthers. It says then, even the national park website says, the mysterious Orang Pendek, a form of great ape. So that's pretty cool.
Yep.
They even thought it meant it up to them to put it on their website. I guess people see it quite a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a bunch of this stuff saved to my favorites on my computer. I can Jeremy, I've shown him the website.
And it says that they have 24 protected species there. That doesn't count subspecies. So
basically, that's a pretty big area for it to live in.
Yeah, it's a very good environment for a creature like the Orang Pendek to exist.
It says something about, let me just read this. It says, a common answer given for the sightings of Orang Pendek is that they're orangutans. Just in an unusual habitat.
Well, I have some information about that.
Yeah, go ahead, Nick.
Okay, well, many skeptics will say that the Orang Pendek is only an orangutan or another local type of primate, but every time witnesses are interviewed, they're asked to choose possible candidates from a selection of photographs and illustrations of known Asian and African primates. It doesn't help a lot. The villagers ignored pictures of Simang gibbons or orangutans, which seem the obvious candidates. Though the orangutans are not known, like you said, Jared, in the Kerinci Sablat. Only when they come across photographs of a sitting gorilla was there a positive reaction. The cranium was pronounced all but identical, but the face was, they said, quite wrong. Orang Pendek, I was told, is more handsome than this animal, the villagers said. Orang Pendek's face is more like people. The upper arms, at least, were considered accurate, as were the chest and the shoulders. The legs also met with some approval, but the feet were long, according to the eyewitnesses. Villagers repeatedly commented that the gorilla was quite clearly a monkey. Orang Pendek, they explained, was not a monkey, even though not a man. A silhouette of a gorilla man, however, with universal approval and cries of, "That's it, that's more like it." It was the National Parks Office that made the final proposal, that we should invite a few of the most credible witnesses into town and ask them to describe the animal to a WWF wildlife artist. I read WWF and I thought about the wrestling for a second, but I think the WWF is the wildlife foundation out there.
Well, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Nick, but we have 37 minutes left in the show. We are going to go on a quick commercial break, and when we get back, we're going to continue talking about the Orang Pendek, and you're listening to BFP Radio.
Use Ajax, the foaming cleanser. Clean pots and pans, just like a whiz.
Ajax cuts grease faster than any other leading cleanser.
Use the pain, the elbow tax, when you start cleaning with Ajax.
Ajax really polishes as it cleans.
So use Ajax, the foaming cleanser. Plus the dirt.
Hello, I'm Mr. Ed. A horse is a horse, of course, and no one can talk to a horse, of course. That is, of course, unless the horse is the famous Mr. Ed. Go right to the source and ask the horse. He'll give you the answer that you endorse. He's always on a steady course. Talk to Mr. Ed. People yakety-yak and squeak and waste your time a day. But Mr. Ed will never speak unless he has something to say. A horse is a horse, of course, and this one will talk to his voice, his horse. You never heard of a talking horse? Well, listen to this.
I am Mr. Ed.
Help, the human's about to escape.
Get your paws off me, you dirty ape!
He can talk.
He can talk, 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 he can talk.
I can sing!
Ooh, help me, Dr. Zayas.
Dr. Zayas, Dr. Zayas. Dr. Zayas, Dr. Zayas. Dr. Zayas, Dr. Zayas. Oh, Dr. Zayas.
Dr. Zayas, Dr. Zayas.
What's wrong with me?
I think you're crazy.
Want a second opinion?
You're also lazy.
Dr. Zayas, Dr. Zayas. Dr. Zayas, Dr. Zayas. Dr. Zayas, Dr. Zayas. Oh, Dr. Zayas.
Dr. Zayas.
And we are back on BFP Paranormal Radio. Today's show, we're talking about the Orang Pendek, or the Dwarf Sasquatch of Sumatra. And Nick, you're in the middle of talking about the Orang Pendek and Orangutan Association when we went to a commercial break.
Yes. Well, to basically sum up what I said earlier, a bunch of investigators went out into the villages where the Orang Pendek is sighted, and they asked the witnesses to describe what the Orang Pendek looked like, and then they showed them pictures of various primates from Africa and from Asia, including pictures of the orangutan and, I'm trying to find, not the spider monkey, another local monkey in Sumatra, and I can't find it in my notes, but they showed them pictures of animals that lived in the area and some animals that came from abroad, and the closest animal to the Orang Pendek was a gorilla out of all the animals. But the villagers went out of their way to say that the gorilla was not quite the Orang Pendek. They said the Orang Pendek is much more like a human and doesn't have hair on the face like a gorilla does.
Yeah. Well, Nick, sorry to interrupt you, but I think one of the funniest things, they're showing a bunch of people, like locals from Sumatra and Flores, on this expedition to look for the Orang Pendek.
Yeah.
They're all randomly wearing like different types of clothes and shirts. The one guy's randomly wearing a Beavis and Butthead shirt out there. Anyways.
That's pretty awesome.
Well, they even sent Monster Quest out on History Channel. We all know how that show went, but well, anyway, so the History Channel went out there, and a local said that they had seen the Orang Pendek, and I guess when it got scared, the guy said that the Orang Pendek put its hands above its head and did almost like almost looked like it was spinning around in circles with its hand above its head, trying to scare the people. I thought that was interesting.
And that's actually a great ape. They always do that to try to make themselves look bigger than more intimidating to others.
Yeah, but the spinning motion, as I was saying, was weird, not the hands.
I mean, the whole thing is just bizarre, but it's similar to great ape habits and the way they act.
Mm-hmm.
Becky could elaborate more on that, but she's not on the
phone.
Yeah.
Becky, she said that she went like abroad and studied over in Sumatra for a while, but I don't know. She said that her phone's not working right now, but we'll put her on next weekend.
Oh, sounds good.
So Nick, okay, on to your next point. Sorry to interrupt you there.
Yeah. Well, here I found an interesting piece of information about a hair sample that was found by a certain Hans Brunner, an Australian hair analyst. He took the hairs and he compared the hair samples found in Sumatra to primates and local animals, and that suggested they originated from a previously undocumented species of primate. However, Dr. Todd Bisotel, a biological anthropologist from New York University, performed DNA analysis on the hairs and found nothing but human DNA in the sample. However, he cautioned that there may have been a cross-contamination by the people who handled the hairs, and they could have introduced the DNA, or original DNA could have decomposed, because DNA is a very, very fragile thing which doesn't take a lot to decompose and break down. I mean, we have stories, look at Jurassic Park, where people were supposed to have been able to take out DNA from mosquitoes that had bitten dinosaurs. DNA doesn't last that long. DNA is a lot more fragile than Hollywood and other people would lead you to believe. So the DNA of this animal could have broken down, or as Dr. this hotel said people who handled the hair might have cross-contaminated it with human DNA, so there's a lot of different things that could have occurred. So basically you can say the investigation from that hair sample is inconclusive. It tells you really nothing. It doesn't prove that the animal doesn't exist, but it doesn't prove that the creature exists either.
Yeah. I guess apparently there's a TV show filming an Orang Pendek show right now, it says on Lauren Coleman's website. That's interesting. And, well, sorry, I'm looking at a weird picture of it. So, looking at an eyewitness drawing of the Orang Pendek, and it says that people call it the Hobbit. I guess would be a good thing to call it. So I'm getting a little confused here. A New Zealand scientist planning an event about the species has been banned from describing the ancient people as hobbits by the company which owns the film rights to The Hobbit. This type of stuff?
That's ridiculous.
What do you think, Brent?
What was that last thing you said?
Oh, the people that own Lord of the Rings rights are trying to sue some museum for writing the Hobbit Sasquatch on their museum display.
That's ridiculous, man. That's pretty ridiculous. I mean, just for using the name The Hobbit.
Yeah.
I think some people are just out to get other people for money.
Well,
come on, Jared.
What's it?
That's the American way. Make a quick buck by suing the pants off of your buddy. Isn't that the American way?
Yeah.
I mean, just look at Mr. Glenn Lerner out here in Las Vegas and every other crook lawyer you see on TV 1,000 times a day.
Well, there's something we forgot to mention about Orang Pendek that I'm seeing. Some people state that they think that the Orang Pendek has its feet on backwards, so it could, I don't know, sort of like a survival trait. I don't know if I believe in that, but have you read about that, Nick?
I think I've heard of it before in the past.
It was on that website where you got some of your notes from. It's like on one of the first paragraphs.
Oh, yeah, I haven't seen it in my notes, but I have heard of it before when we've done other shows about the Orang Pendek.
Yeah, they claim that the Orang Pendek, some people say its feet are on backwards to evade hunters. I don't really know how that would work.
I just think it's part of maybe the native folklore.
Yeah, it's somewhat of an exaggeration, because how could an animal survive with backwards feet? I think that animal would die in a heartbeat. It would be killed by a Sumatran tiger or something very, very quickly if it had backwards feet.
Well, Mike Baca has backwards feet. Is that right, Brent?
Yeah.
He's bass backwards.
Well, Nick, did you have any other talking points that you wanted to bring up?
There's a guy by the name of certain Mr. Rustum. He is the head man of Selimpong, the village in the Kinrichi-Selbit Valley. He wants to catch an Orang Pendek to prove that he and the other villagers are not telling lies. Basically, he's fed up of people coming into the park and telling him that he's a liar and that he's crazy and whatnot. So he goes out into the mountainsides and he digs some dark hole. He digs some deep holes in the ground covered with rich, dark volcanic earth. Disguised with leaves 2 meters deep, the pits are surrounded by a bait of fruit and vegetables. I guess this guy is on a quest to do whatever he can to try to prove to the world that he's right.
Is that the British guy?
In my notes it says he's the headman of Salamplang, of some village in Sumatra. So I'm assuming he's a villager if he's the head of a village.
Actually, when Becky said she was studying abroad, I think she said she mentioned that guy before.
Well, Becky just wrote on here, she says, actually, there is a real animal that has their feet on slightly backwards because she says that it helps them balance, is what Becky said. It was on something called Destination Truth, that sci-fi show.
Oh, actually, I think I know what she's talking about. I do recall seeing that the creature they said had its feet on backwards.
Yeah, that's an interesting point.
There's a specific website I'm trying to find in this one eyewitness story of Orang Pendek, but I can't seem to find it. Well, there's another story that me and Tim found. They said that the Orang Pendek supposedly stole some food from a village and they trapped it in a barn and burnt it to death. Do you remember that story, Tim?
Yeah.
I can't seem to find the story, but I just know the overview. And it said the people that ate the meat, they died or got very sick. I don't recall. It was one of the two.
Yeah, I just remember they burnt them and killed the animals.
Well, that would explain, Nick, what you said you heard that cannibals get sick when they eat the same type of meat or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, or this leads to believe that they're filthy and maybe disease-ridden because they live out in the forest.
True.
But I just think it's amazing how this Bigfoot actually is it has actual evidence to prove that it has lived among the same time as man and have possibly walked alongside with us. Mm-hmm. Lived at the same time. That's what I find amazing about this.
Well, here's another slightly maybe disturbing thing to think about. Well, I don't know if you want to picture this in your mind, but humans may not have only walked and eaten with the Orang Pendek, but they may have also gotten busy with the Orang Pendek. Apparently, in history and in biological history, it has been found that early man, Homo sapiens, interbred with different types of hominids. Like, I don't know if I brought this up on the show the other day, but Europeans, for instance, have around 5% Cro-Magnon DNA because when the Homo sapiens migrated from Africa into Europe, they came into contact with the Cro-Magnons and they interbred with them and had a Homo sapien Cro-Magnon subspecies, which has evolved now into modern-day man. So perhaps some of the people on the island, this would be interesting. I don't know if they've ever done this before, but it would be an interesting thing if they took some DNA from the villagers of Sumatra and then oh my God, I'm getting all tongue twisted. They should take their DNA and they need to see if it has any Orang Pendek DNA in it as well, or Homo florensis DNA, if you want to use the scientific term. That would be quite a scientific discovery.
Oh, yeah, that would be neat.
Well, we figure some people have giant features. Like I know they said some people have more than one type of common ancestor. Like, if you have a lot, let's say, like, your section of the world had a lot of Neanderthals, you're going to have more Neanderthal traits, and because the Neanderthals and the Cro-Magnons had different traits.
Yeah.
Like, we have a friend who was a Native American, and I swore this guy looked like a Neanderthal.
Yeah.
Well, and there's also certain households like Jesse's house that may have more Neanderthal-like features than the rest.
Well, no. Well, on a serious note, On September 4th, 2002, here's an article. It says, tests being carried out on Orang Pendek hare. A world-renowned hare expert is on the verge of proving the existence of a Yeti-like creature on an Indonesian island. Hans Brunner is studying hair samples discovered within western Sumatra, which have baffled other scientists. The tale of the Orang Pendek, or Little Man of the Forest, is a well-known legend in the region. Brunner, an associate of Deakin University of Melbourne, Australia, has been analyzing 2 hares which were found by a team of British explorers who followed the trail of a primate which has long lived in the folklore of tribes on the island. He has volunteered his expertise after a story of 3 part-time explorers discovering unknown hares and inside a castaway footprint. Adam Sanderson, Adam Davies, and Keith Townley are cryptozoologists who take time off of their day jobs to prove or disprove the existence of creatures. They sent their hair samples from Western Sumatra to Australia for analysis, and here's what they found. No match can be found when they were tested against hairs of orangutans, chimpanzees, gorilla, sun bear, leaf monkey, pigtail macaque, Malaysian tapir, or human. So that's odd.
Yeah, that is pretty interesting.
So, and then here's what the scientist himself said. He said, "So far, I have found that the two hairs which I have are different from any species that I have compared them with. If nothing comes up, I guess we have to say that there's an animal that hasn't existed in the past, right?" Is what he says. That's what he was telling the press at the time. So, what do you think, Brent? You think that's cool?
Yeah, it sounds pretty interesting.
Because I don't know about you. I don't know of any other Orang Pendek hair samples or anything that they found.
No, I'm just aware of some foot casts. That's about it.
They should compare Jesse's DNA with the Homo florensis and see if they exist together. I think Becky's on the line.
No, Nick, you mean hunger.
Are you on, Becky?
Yes.
Big Red Okie.
Big Red Okie.
Been letting you guys spread your lies about me to the world?
No.
No. Well, Becky, she was studying
my trip to Sumatra.
abroad in Sumatra.
Oh my God.
She was writing books. She was writing a book, and I guess she kind of was like a ghostwriter for somebody else, and she doesn't want people to know about it. Because I guess she could get in trouble for it or something.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So.
Well, Jer. Are you telling a story like certain UFO witnesses that we might know?
No. Becky just likes to try to turn things around on me.
Oh, yeah. It's okay, Becky. It's okay. They do it to me all the time at home.
That's okay. Anyway. Torment me on the radio. It's fine. It's spreading rumors.
Anyway, so Brent, what do you have any comments or any suggestions on that you want to make for the show?
You mean, like, what do you mean by comments?
Like any talking points or any like suggestions or comments on what we've talked about already or anything?
Well, I don't know. It just like lately, like I've like before the show, I was researching this stuff on the Orang Pendek, and I can't really find any new stuff. Everything I try to find is at least 5 years old, and I thought that was a little interesting because it doesn't seem like anyone's really out there looking for it right now. So it would be kind of good for us when we go out there.
Oh yeah,
that's probably going to be our first international trip, which is kind of scary in a way. Well,
no, I thought you wanted to go look for the rodent in Papua New Guinea.
Well, there's a couple of possibilities. We either wanted to go to New Guinea, Sumatra, or Eastern Europe are the 3 possibilities.
Well, no, and Canada, Jay.
But knowing us, we'll probably end up going to the more dangerous 2. So it'll probably be either New Guinea or Sumatra.
I remember you guys talking about wanting to go to Sumatra like a couple of years ago. You were talking about it on the, might have been the first Orang Pendek episode, first or second one.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, we're definitely going to go there one day. It's just a matter of finding a guide and not getting killed.
Well, I'm looking at the...
Yeah, I'm just to say, I'm going to be a little bit out of my realm here. Just a casino worker running around in the forest of Sumatra.
You mean like P. Diddy or Kanye says, "Don't let me get in my zone"?
Yeah, exactly. What do you call it? I know when there's Bigfoot sightings here in America, there's often a foul odor associated with many of the sightings. Jared, do you know if there are any odors associated with the Orang Pendek?
Well, speaking of that, I know some people said that the creature is relatively dirty. Like, it doesn't groom itself or, I'm trying to think of the word. It doesn't have good, I don't know, it's called bathing habits, I guess.
Grooming?
Hygiene?
It doesn't brush its teeth when it wakes up.
Oh, wait. It's being Mike.
You have to force it to make it take a shower.
Well, it's also, I forgot to mention this. It's seen on Mount Kerinci. It says it's the second highest peak in Indonesia. So it seems like they live down on the forest floor, but they also live up in the mountains. Almost like it doesn't really affect them, but they mostly live in the mountains, from what it sounds like.
Well, like it migrates, maybe.
Yeah, like it doesn't care where it lives as long as it's on like that general type of environment. Almost like a pigeon or something, where they're seen in the mountains in California, and then they're seen down here in the desert and all over.
Yeah, it probably just migrates depending on weather conditions and food supplies and whatnot.
And here's another important thing we never brought up. It says it's covered in short gray to brown fur. So it could be either all gray, all brown, or gray and brown is what it's mostly reported to be. So, why do you think that is, Brent?
I don't know. Like, if it's gray, like it kind of seems like it would be, I guess, a little different because with the whole Sumatra and everything, like, you know, they got like the Sumatran rhino and it has reddish hair on it. So I don't know. I don't really see how it could I guess be logical for the hair to be gray. I mean, these are like first-hand experience from people who actually see these, and they say, you know, it's this color and whatnot. Just from my point of view, it seems like the hair is. I'd have to see it to actually make a good judgment on it. I mean,
unless well, if you don't mind me throwing a word in there, Brandon, unless maybe it's like humans when it turns old, maybe her hair turns gray. I don't know. The only thing I could think of.
Yeah, that's possible.
Aren't older gorillas, don't they look more, maybe I'm just thinking of silverbacks, but did they not get more grayish in color when they get older? I don't know, I can't remember, but...
I don't know, Nick, what's up with your dad?
Oh, yeah.
Well, I don't know. I understand the Sumatran rhino has reddish-colored hair so it could blend in with the environment. I just don't really know how gray hair would benefit the animal, really. I mean, unless it's in a rock quarry or something, I don't know how it would help it camouflage.
Yeah.
The other thing, it said it's bipedal, so there's no reports of this thing walking on all fours? What do you think, Jim? I can hear you talking in those lines.
What's that?
I said, do you know of any reports of this thing walking on all fours or only on two legs?
Well, I've heard of it walking on like fours when it's trying to like grab crops and stuff out of the, like, you know, the fields and everything, like the yam fields and all that sort of stuff. But I've never heard of any, like, just wandered in the forest on four legs.
Mhm.
Because even then, it's probably not even walking. It's probably just knelt. So it's probably kneeled over trying to grab the stuff, and the villagers mistake it for walking on floor.
Like crawling to reach something.
Yeah.
I'm reading. It says that their feet. Some people say they're backwards. Other people say, like, this is the most logical reason. People say their feet just go out at a 45-degree angle. So almost like they have a, what do they call that? Not knock knees. They call it something else. But anyways, so do you think that would be easy, Nick, to say that its feet were backwards by, I don't want to say uneducated people, but maybe, I don't know the word.
Inbred.
Yeah.
For someone such as the intelligence of John, Nick, would they be able to distinguish that?
Probably not.
Well, how come some stories say that it only eats fruits and vegetables, but then other reports say that the Orang, what's it called, the Hantu Pendek, they say it eats meat. Do you think maybe it could be the same creature and they just are omnivores?
Well, I know apes in general, like they're omnivores. They eat both, but maybe just those other reports, maybe they've only seen them eating yams and stuff, or maybe that's all they could. Maybe that's all that's available in the area at the time when they see it.
Well, I'm kind of wondering why they need those really sharp canine and their teeth. It says in scissors and canine teeth are long and sharp. If they're only eating fruit, doesn't that kind of like a meat-eating animal's teeth?
Yeah. Well, it did say with the list of the things that it eats, it said it eats river crab and bugs and whatnot. So it probably eats things like rats and snakes and stuff as well. So it would need sharp teeth to be able to rip apart the meat of its food if it eats those things.
Sounds like he eats pretty well out there.
Yeah, I'll go get me some grubs.
He has a nice buffet going on.
So in other words, you can go get Andrew Zimmer to go on Bizarre Foods with the Orang Pendek, and he'll eat the same stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, this crab looks great, Orang.
Well, Nick.
Oh, I cannot watch that show.
Well, he could probably eat ugok, is what they call it. I seen on that show is like grub worms. They said the Filipinos, I guess it's like a traditional type of food.
Yeah.
Those are found on that island too, so it might eat ugok. Or ugok, whatever it's called. Do you know how to pronounce that, Brent?
What's that?
I said it's a Filipino word. It's like grub worms. When it's eaten as a meal, it's called ugok or ugok or something, is what they were saying on TV.
What is it?
It's like a white grub worm, like Timon and Pumbaa eat. I guess because the Filipinos eat it, and it has like a special word.
I don't know. I
like how Brent's part Filipino, and you just assume. Hey, Brent, you know the name of the grub worm?
Well, no. I'm not trying to be silly. I'm trying to be serious. Anyways, there's skeptics who talk about that hair sample, and I guess apparently skeptics say that it was contaminated by people that handled the hairs. They say introduced their DNA to the original DNA and it decomposes, is what they're saying. That's the skeptics, at least.
When did this hair sample? When did they get that?
2002 or 2003.
Oh, that's
and then
several years ago.
It says from 2005 to 2009, I think Nick said earlier, there was a giant project by National Geographic trying to take pictures of the Orang Pendek, but it says that they didn't have any success. But apparently Destination Truth and Monster Quest went out there. These are American TV shows funded by Sci-Fi Channel and History Channel, and they actually managed to find footprint casts. So I don't know if you'd rather have the picture or the footprint cast, but either one I guess is pretty cool. I figured something is out there because it's not a gorilla track that they're showing, because you figure they're analyzing these next to known animals also. Not a gorilla track. It's not a tapir or weird type of tiger or rhino or anything. It's something's out there. They just don't know what it is at this point in time.
Yeah. And it could puzzle the scientific community for years now, so that's another mystery.
Well, Jeremy, you said Destination Truth found some footprint casts. However, knowing that there's been evidence that's come to the surface that shows channels like the Sci-Fi Channel and the Travel Channel could be a little less than honest, would you put it past them to use fake footprints to make those casts?
Well, how to word this?
Oh, yeah.
Some of the TV programs that I've been on, the producers and different staff members try to go out of their way to find 100% evidence on 100% of the episodes. And I think it's believable in a sense, but not quite.
Was it actually the Sumatra one, though? That they found footprints for? Was it the Orang Pendek one on Destination Truth? Because I know they found footprints, I think, in like Nepal for other Bigfoot-like ones. I didn't know if they did Orang Pendek, but I know that Jeff Meldrum has been on some of the Destination Truth episodes, and he thinks that they're authentic, the footprints. So I don't know if that's saying something or not, but
I don't know, because there are certain ghost teams that like to use mist machines in hotels to produce fake evidence. So
yeah, I mean, some of them are definitely questionable, but
I told Nick talked about the Baker Hotel. They posted pictures of the ghost adventures, arguing with the staff members because they wanted the Baker Hotel to put Mr. machines in the door frames, or for a couple pictures, or for their filming scenes to make it look like there was ghost activity when there really wasn't. So apparently the hotel told them, no, get out of here, and then they were arguing with the staff members, and they put albums up on their Facebook about it. So that's what Nick's talking about. Yeah.
That's something I'll have to look into, because I did look into what you said about that Bloody Mary. I looked for that contract you said you posted on our website, and I could not find it anywhere. So I don't know what's up with that, but
my mom actually had it saved to her desktop and stuff, so she found it somewhere. I thought it's on her website somewhere.
Well,
the only mention of Ghost Adventures was a little review or a little comment about them, and it was a positive thing. So I don't know.
I don't know, because if Bloody Mary was thrown a nice threat of a lawsuit, she probably promptly removed that contract off of the website.
Maybe she did.
I know I would.
Well, you also have to imagine there's big, lengthy contracts where, not just speaking for Monster Questers, but for any TV show, where you're not allowed to talk about the filming process at all. Like, as Tim and Nick and Brent seen, we were filming for Mystery Files last summer, and the contract was like 10 or 15 pages long, saying you're not allowed to even talk about the type of cameras you use or where you go, how you get there, or things like that. So that's why you kind of have to take the evidence with a grain of salt as far as those TV shows go, is what Nick was trying to basically say.
Yeah.
Well, it's good to know anything on our website or on our YouTubes or anything are 100% authentic, because we're not out to fake crap. So.
Yeah, we're not out to make money, so
we do this for free. So.
Well, we have about a minute left in the show. I'm going to have to end the show here. Well, tune in on Wednesday at 7 p.m. Pacific time. We're going to have a topic that's very close to Brent. It's called the Iron Man of Gorbal, Scotland. It's a case that Brent has studied thoroughly. But anyways, thanks for listening to the show today, everybody. And
good night.
Have a good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.